don't give answers that they don't come to themselves or try to work towards first. They won't remember without engaging. Okay, so if someone asks you a question, or like even if they don't ask you a question, let's say you're teaching, and you just tell them all of the answers, it's not really going to stick unless they try to come up with the answer first. Or even better, if they arrive at the answer themselves. And I think this is basically just comes back to, I think, how you can't convince other people. You can only help other people convince themselves. But if you think about, for example, for me, it was mostly like math, right? If someone just told me how these math equations, to remember the math equations, I wouldn't really remember the equations. Whereas if I try to solve the problem, like they present me a problem, and then I go through and try to find the problem, and then I go through a series of steps of trying to find the problem, and eventually, they maybe sometimes give assistance, and then it'll eventually we come up with a formula. I'm more likely to remember the formula. And I mean, for example, like the parabolic formula was like negative b plus minus the square root of 4ac minus b plus b squared. Was it plus or minus b squared? I mean, I feel like I'm disproving myself by not remembering it. I think it was minus, and then it was divided by 4a, I believe. Wait, no, it was divided by 2a. I mean, okay, here's the thing though. It's been like 10 years. I've never used it, and I still remember it somewhat. But the point is, if you just tell people answers, they're not going to remember it. If they ask you a question and then you walk them through the way they got to get to an answer they find, then you maybe nudge them by saying, is that true? Or like, is this a mistake here? And eventually, if they find the answer, they're more likely to stick with it. Same with like, I think I wrote this because of the discussion about, for example, changing diets. No, wait, that wasn't it. I don't know. Anyways. If you wear a shabby dress, everyone sees the dress. If you wear a beautiful dress, everyone sees the woman. I'm not even sure where I heard this, why they said this, what it implies, what the context was, or why I wrote it down. If you, so I'm just thinking as I go. I don't know if this is true, but if you think about your life, if your life is kind of shit, everybody looks at the parts of your life that sucks. If your life is pretty good, everybody looks at you now rather than why the house you own, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure what the point of this was. Before hitting the gas, first release the brakes. Right, so before thinking about what you can do to become rich, first remove the things about yourself that prevent you from being rich. Before thinking about finding a relationship that sticks, first remove the things about yourself that makes it impossible for you to work out, make a relationship work. Before trying to before trying to eat healthy foods, first stop eating unhealthy foods. Before, I mean, you get the idea. Before trying to seek happiness, do things that you think will make you happy, start by removing the things that make you unhappy. I think that was the context in which I originally heard this quote. So if you don't remove the things that make you unhappy, then the things that bring you you think will bring you happiness, are probably going to be vices that distract you from unhappiness. That's just the side comment. Okay. What does this even mean? Fake sleep feedback. This note makes no sense. There's a difference between hate speech and speech you hate. True. Don't look for fun and exciting. Look for his habit. Oh, this is talking about relationship. Oh, this was from the book about relationships. I don't even know why I read that book, but don't look for fun and exciting. Look for his habits. So, for example, does he take care of his hygiene? Does he, do things that are like, rather than looking for a date that was very exciting, look for someone who has himself put together, I guess. And so, and the second sentence is, don't look for a love story, it's this dramatic story. Look for a good parent. So these are the notes from that book. Wealth to happiness. So the ratio of your wealth to your happiness is largely based on the wealth of the people around you. So let's say you make $100,000 a year, and you live in a house that corresponds to that, and live your life in a way that corresponds to that. If you're surrounded by people, if all of your neighbors live with $200,000 a year or $500,000 a year, you're going to be a lot less happy on average, this is statistically, than someone who makes maybe $70,000 a year but is surrounded by people who earn maybe $40,000 a year. So now, obviously, this is once you pass a certain threshold, which I think is 70,000. They said happiness stops helping. So basically, it's like once your income passes a certain the threshold for improving happiness, it's going to be largely influenced by the impact of increased wealth to your happiness is going to be based on the wealth of the people around you. So the amount of money you make itself is no longer going to add more happiness. I'm sure you've all heard the statistic. I think it was around 72,000. Anyways. And obviously it also changes by country. I think this study was done in the US. Everything in life is like building a business. Everything in life is like building a business. Everything in life is like building a business. Ooh. Right. Yes. So if you treat yourself as a business, you need to. I feel like I could write notes and notes on this as I think more about it. But if you want to grow the business, you have to invest in the business. You have to find ways to improve the business. Find the bottlenecks for the growth of the business. For example, maybe it's the marketing that's keeping the business from getting better. So you focus on improving the marketing rather than focusing on improving the areas that are not bottlenecking the growth of the business. So, and this one's from Alex Hormozy, where he talks about when he talks with startup entrepreneurs, and they keep building potential on their business, but that's not what's bottlenecking the growth of their business. So even if they keep improving this aspect of the business, the actual income won't increase until they change the thing that is stopping them from improving the scale of the business. Management. So if you micromanage, then things are it's not going to be productive. Things aren't going to be efficient because you're not using the full ability of the people you're micromanaging. So if you have to manually do things every single time you do it, or if you can make a habit out of the things that are going to be repeated. That's like saying a job only gets done when you're micromanaging it, whereas nothing gets done if you never micromanage it and you can't delegate the work to that person. So those are like habits. If you partnerships, if you want to have a happy partnership with other businesses, then everybody needs to win. If you eat things, if you do have bad practices, it's going to, if you have poor leadership, if you punish teamwork and reward, fragmentation, then it's going to be fragmented. So, if you do things that are bad for the body, the body's going to give you bad results. So that includes like alcohol, fast food, etc. Don't put every hat on your partner. So this is basically to say, don't expect your partner to be the friend that you play video games with, the friend that you run a business with, the friend that your coworker, your colleague, your friend, your sports watching partner, your basically don't put every single hat on your partner. Give different hats to different people, and you'll have better relationships, because then you align your expectations with reality. Again, everything comes back to that, doesn't it? I think happiness can be defined by whether or not by your level of satisfaction with the way reality is, based on what I've read. Okay. Learn to live. Okay, this is. I guess I wrote all of these notes while reading the book on relationships. Learn to live with differences to prevent escalation. So if you guys have a difference in beliefs, then since you know that you're going to have differences, then by being aware of it, you have to accept that when that time comes and the differences are brought to light, don't treat them as something to be resolved, and don't treat every difference like you have to come to an agreement on where to meet. For example, let's say you hate shopping and she loves shopping. That doesn't mean you have to compromise by saying, I'll go shopping with you X amount of times. Maybe like X amount of frequencies, because that means every time you go shopping, you feel like you're making a sacrifice. Whereas maybe if you go, I'll enjoy it if we do this, or maybe if she can go, she can take the shopping partner hat off of your head and put it on a friend. Or maybe if she hates when you watch sports, she can remove that hat. And so on, I guess. Anyways. Optimistic bias on insufficient info, like hiring. Okay, so if you know very little about something, you are more likely to glorify it, romanticize it, view it optimistically, because you look at all of the good things. Like, for example, when you search for a hire, we'll use hiring as an example because that's the one I use. Let's say a company is looking for an external C-level executive to replace someone that they lost. When they hire, they look at all of the credentials, so they see all of the good things. So they're more likely to view them in a positive light than other people. that may be people they know better, the people within the company, because they know the downsides and the flaws. So that's why when they get hired, maybe they see the flaws and then their illusions are shattered, and then you get this grass is always greener effect, where now you see the other people and you look at their qualifications, you're like, they're better. So this can happen in hiring, in relationships, in meeting new people, like especially with like if you use social media to see other people. And actually this is also similar to the wealth to happiness is largely based on the wealth of people around you. So if you make X amount of money, and maybe the people around you, that your neighbors make the same amount of money, but if you always use social media, or you always look at your richer friends, or maybe your boss's life and your boss's friends' lives, then it's still going to be the same effect, even if you live in that place. Maybe. Depends. Anyways, I think that is sufficient. I'm going to cut it a little short today because I'm kind of busy. That's fine.